Hi, I'm Kim Kanzler, and I'm an infant feeding specialist with Encompass and part of the Nourish program. The Nourish program is just a group of therapists at Encompass that has specialized training in supporting families with different feeding challenges that they may be experiencing with a child. I'm excited to be with you here today and just talk about some general things that we like to work with regards to feeding child. Kind of that 6 months on, kind of focusing in on that younger age range. So I'm going to share my screen. And my goal always with feeding is that we're having fun like that, right? Meals are a really sociable time. And I want meals for all families, all children to be just an enjoyable time. Definitely that's not the case. So I really like to start with a foundation, really setting the stage for positive meal times. So when I'm thinking about that, I'm starting at that earliest range. So today I've done my job if I've shared with you some of my favorite tools, um, setting that stage, some of those early food experiences, what that looks like, setting realistic expectations for your child and yourself, and that you've left today after a quick 30 minutes with some tools in your toolbox to support you and your child in having those positive food experiences. So with seating, and I'm going to talk about high chairs. I like to keep kids in high chairs as long as, or a supported seating placement as long as possible. I think oftentimes we move out or away from the high chair a little too early. Starting at the very youngest, so at that 6 month mark, when what I look for in a high chair is that they can be in that 90, 90, 90. So I have a picture here and you can see that. So they're sitting upright. We don't need high chairs that recline. So we want active participants in this food experiences. So that means sitting up and engaged with that tray of food or that food item on the tray. So I want that straight back at that hip, um, a nice um, a nice angle there, supported. Then their knees come down, and a footrest is really important. You see that angle of their feet on that footrest is very important. Many high chairs don't have a footrest. That is something that I strongly encourage. You can get really high-end high chairs like a Kikaroo or a Stokey, and they're great. They are fantastic high chairs, but oftentimes that's not realistic for many of my parents that I work with. Um, in my infant feeding play groups, I use an IKEA high chair. I think they were 30 or $40. And on Amazon, if you put in IKEA high chair footrest, you can find a footrest for under $20 that you can add to that high chair. So you get a really great high chair for under $50. Well, maybe around $60. Um, I want that tray. You see that tray hitting right above the belly button. We want to have free arm movement so that child can really engage in the food. Particularly with our little babies, that tray will hit really high, like at nipple level. So does that mean you need to have separate high chairs for, 6 months and 12 months and 18 months? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Um, but we just work to modify that high chair. So what that might mean for our little kiddos, in that 6, 7, 8 months, we may use a folded dish towel just to boost them up in that seat so that tray hits right above the belly button and they have the nice range of motion with their hands. I think this is a great picture. You can see how this baby's arms are freely moving, well supported in this high chair. Utensils. I there's people get really super fancy with utensils, and I've seen some with a guards on them so they can't put in their mouth, and I just find that that's not necessary. Babies learn really quickly, and learning and exploring where that gag is a really important part of feeding development. So I don't think you need it, but it's there. On the bottom here, I love these little, I think they're called Noom spoons. It has that cutout. Why I particularly like these is it'll grab the food. So I can take like a really thick like oatmeal, like steel cut oats or mashed avocado, or um, you can smush it in banana, and those little holes or those grippers really catch the food, and then that baby can practice hand to mouth. On the top here and the Nook brush in the corner, I really enjoy these brushes. One, babies use both ends of spoons, so I like that there's textures on them. Um, Exploring those different textures of utensils is really important. So I don't care what a baby uses. Some of my babies even use toothbrushes, and we just, put the food in there so they can explore. The important thing is that they have something that they're comfortable, that they can practice hand to mouth. Um, for some of those experiences where we're giving a spoonful of food to baby, I like this is just a maroon spoon. It's called a maroon spoon because it's a maroon color, but it has a really shallow bowl on it. I really I often will have two utensils because once you go and hold a spoonful of food out for a baby, they will often grab it and take it to their mouth, and then they don't want to give it up. So then I get another one and we trade back and forth. Um, One thing I do love with utensils, if I'm spoon feeding a baby, I call it 90-10. So if this is the baby's mouth, I'm taking that spoon to about here and waiting for them to lean in to go forth. You'll hear me talk a lot. I think waiting for consent is really important empowerment strategy for our littlest on up, to give them that voice and choice in feeding. But just some of the tools that I particularly like in feeding. I think we're inundated with potential tools these days as parents. Certainly, when my kids were younger, there was kind of, a really small group of, utensils to use. And now it's just overwhelming the sheer amount of things that you can buy and access. Cups. You'll notice that I don't have any sippy cups on here. Um, Sippy cups really create an atypical motor pattern in their tongue and sucking. So they're not my most favorite. So I understand parents not wanting things that spill. This cup on the end has a gravity straw, so it is spill proof, but creates that straw. I use straw cups or open cups as my primary um, uh, vessel when I'm training outside of bottles. I start with cups around six months. After there's about 6 months, and I'm working with open cups and straw cups at that age. Um, I really like the brand EZPZ. Both of these cups on the end, the open cup and the little straw cups, are from that brand. Particularly because they're little and they fit in the little kiddos' hands. They have a good weight to them. The easy peasy straw cups, you can kind of see the bumps around the edge. That really cues to the baby where their lips should go. Again, it's small. This is less spill proof than an open cup, but it certainly doesn't contain the liquid. So this is definitely more of something that I would use at meal times or snack times when they're in their high chair, and then maybe the other straw cup for water out on the go. Um, when do I start feeding? You know, when I get this question a lot, as a feeding therapist from friends and community and clients. And these are some of the factors that we look at. 6 months of age. So the American Academy of Pediatrics really says that no solid foods until 6 months and with the additional criteria. So once they're 6 months of age, and then they're also demonstrating some of these other things. So have strong head and neck control, that they're not dipping their head, they're really able to look all around and not need some extra trunk support. So sitting with minimal support. So they don't have to be full total sitters on their own independently, but that you can let go. They can start catching themselves with their hands, and they can do for short periods of time. So really want to see that they're demonstrating a degree of trunk support, that they're bringing toys to their mouth. This is a really important part, that they're just ready to explore orally. And I love this one, you know, that they're really showing interest in what you're eating. So if you're holding them and you're trying to sneak in that bite of eggs at breakfast, are they reaching over, really interested in exploring this food that you're putting in your mouth, and really show that interest? So once they're showing these different criteria, then yeah, we're absolutely ready to start those solid foods. Again, the American Academy of Pediatrics really says that between 6 and 12 months, our main source of calories is from human milk or formula. That really our goal with regards to sitting and engaging with foods, whether that is whole foods or purees, is just that we want to provide a wide variety of experiences of tastes and textures, but we are not worried about quantity at all. This is a hard one for some of my parents that I work with, but we really say embrace the mess. Um, Feeding is a full body sensory experience, right? And so you see those babies that are covered head to toe in whatever food they are eating. And I love those pictures. That a baby has to be comfortable with that food on their hands, the smell around them, the feel of it on their body before they're able to engage and put that food in their mouth and taste it and lick it and swallow. Um, and really, this is how we start that earliest family meal engagement, right? It is more about that parent, that caregiver sitting nose to nose with that baby, playing with that food and engaging. So babies learn from modeling. We know kids learn from modeling. So really getting face to face. And this is the hard part, right? We are incredibly busy, more so than ever. But if we can just slow down and pause and have a meal where you are I love to say nose to nose, because I want that parent right on that edge of the tray, you know, right in there in that food with the baby. Um, I see time and time again how that creates just safety and security and a willingness to explore new and different foods. So this is really what I love to do and support my parents on in that 6 to 12 month age. Um, a couple websites that I love to follow is Baby Dietitian. She's on Instagram, 101 Foods by One, also on Instagram. And it just really talks about giving those different foods, how to present those foods, um, and really getting that large variety. 101 foods by one, that is our goal. That we're just giving everything and anything. I like to always give the example. I run an infant feeding play group. So babies 6 to 12 months come and engage with food. We did a 6 week class, 6 weeks, and these babies tried over 50 different foods and 5 of the top allergens in 6 weeks. So we can really think outside the box and expose our babies to new and different things. One other resource that I love that I always talk about is Solid Starts app. And they have a paid content and free content. The free content is beautiful, but you can type in what you're eating for dinner. So tonight I'm having grilled chicken. Um, and so I can type in chicken and it will show me how I can present that to my baby if they're 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. So it's a beautiful resource. Solid Starts. And that is an app, not on Instagram. So all of this, again, with that goal of creating just positive mealtime experiences. So when they get older, what creates challenges? What are those little things? So one, right, babies get distracted as they're just becoming more and more aware. If they have siblings in their home, babies are just taking in this, they're just inundated with stimuli. So they're distracted. Sometimes we get narrowed in on our tasting opportunities. That's why I really love to use that 101 foods, a checklist, just anything to help you think outside of the box. So you're not getting in the rut of these are the 4 vegetables, these are the 5 fruits that I'm offering, but really challenging. Are you doing mango? Are you doing dragon fruit? Are you doing bok choy? That we're just really keeping those windows big and open to different tasting opportunities. I really look at positioning, right? That's what I said, that sometimes we transition out of that high chair a little too early, and then we're not in a good seating position to support positive meals. Um, are you modeling the behavior? Are you sitting down at the table with them? Absolutely. I talk about temperament, sleep, it just plays a part. So, thinking about that, are we getting good quality sleep? How is my baby's temperament? Are they a little bit cautious? Are they more adventurous? Is sitting at a table just super hard for them? So thinking about these things. Consistency, and certainly, has there been a negative past experience? Has there been a choking incident? Have there been a really strong gag? Has there been something that might just create a little tension around that mealtime? So it's important to think about those things. So what do we do when we're starting to see those challenges? One, again, I like to get this information out as early as possible because we do see there's a reason why we want to, before 12 months, expose them to this really big range of food. Because developmentally, around 6 to 18 months, it's really common that babies start exhibiting their voice and choice and narrowing kind of that preferred selection. But if we've started at 100 different foods and we go down to 75, that's not so impactful. But if we've only exposed them to 25 or 30 and they narrow down to 15, that creates some tension and stress. So when you're starting to see some of those challenges, I really say focus in on these things. Increase the number of family meal times. Can you sneak in a breakfast so that you're doing dinner and breakfast all as a family unit? Establish a strong division of responsibility. And we'll talk to this about a little bit later. Ellen Satter is a fantastic resource for this. But parents are responsible for what a child eats, when they eat, and where they eat. And a child decides whether they're going to eat and how much they're going to eat and be comfortable with that division. Implement a solid but flexible meal schedule. So really think about, are my um, are my snacks sabotaging my dinners or my lunch? Am I doing a milk a calorie source before snack or before a meal, and that's sabotaging? So really think about having very clear, these are calorie opportunities and a break, calorie opportunities and a break. Um, if a child refuses a food, don't pressure, but we want to offer that food again in different meals and in different ways. So research shows up to 13 times of presenting that food in different ways before you can truly say, my kiddo doesn't like X. So and then one of my hardcore black or whites that I really hold to: never pressure, never bribe, and never force. Um, it just doesn't create a trusting feeding relationship. So we'll narrow down on some of those a little bit more. So I talked about timing of meals and snacks, lengths of meals and snacks. So meals, I kind of think about in that 15 to 20-minute range, especially for our littles. Some kids can tolerate a little bit longer, up to 25 minutes. Snacks, I'm about 15 minutes. So that means they have access to a snack for that time, and then the food is put away. Um, I really, um, I really work to discourage just kind of these snack opportunities that last for long periods of time. Um, Size of meal. You can see my dietitian that I work with, Sarah Johnson, put together these visuals. This is an appropriate meal size for a toddler, for a child around 2 years of age. And people look at this and they're quite shocked because it seems like such a little amount of food. So really having realistic expectations of what a meal size should be. So if you present this for their dinner and they eat it and they request more, that's fine. But some of my parents want kids to finish large servings of food that wouldn't be expected for a kiddo of that age. I always like to talk about, think about your timing of meals, and don't get stuck in a rigid pattern of breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Some of our kids need that larger meal earlier or later. So I give the example of my kids. We were getting in a pattern where we would get home from daycare and they were ready to eat. And so they were having a snack, but that snack just was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then absolutely demolishing dinner. Like dinner was just not a great experience. And so we reversed that. So I started doing a mini dinner when we got home from daycare, and then we would do snack as a family. And the snack was really what we were eating for dinner, but it was just a much smaller portion of it. So be flexible in thinking about that and what your kiddo is needing at that time. I really try to set that positive environment. So I like to have no TV off. For adults, I like no cell phones at the table. Um, Really, kids don't have to eat at the meal. They have to come and show up for the meal. I love to involve my kids in planning, shopping, preparing. So I had a family said, "Gosh, like where do I even start?" And I go, "Have them come in and they're scrubbing the potatoes. Like just put them at the sink and they have to, scrub the carrots or the tomatoes. They're washing the apples, whatever it may be, but they're just touching and interacting food. Like involve your kiddos. Um, Again, don't force your kid to eat. I think we can talk about our experience, but don't be a cheerleader. Like you don't want to have to throw this big production because they took a bite of a food. Just like, oh yeah, nice job, and be really casual about it. Supportive, but not over the top. I referenced Ellen Satter. She's a great resource, really talks about um uh, really planning the meals, preparing and serving food. Um, just it brings some joy in it, including your child in more than just come and eat, but the pre and post kind of um production, so to speak. Develop your own family rules, what that means for you and your family. People ask me, well, what rules should we have? And I step out of that space because it's so based on what really you hoped your family meals would be. As you were thinking about raising this family with you and your partner or you. Kids are responsible for how much they eat and whether they eat. So if they are just sitting and touching the food, they're they're meeting their responsibility. They've come to the table, and they're there. This can be hard. And we'll talk about like when this doesn't work in just a moment. So our just some things. Be a role model. No force feeding. I do not use labels. You can say through this presentation, I don't use the term picky eaters. I think if kids hear a label, they're going to feel that role that they're given. So I don't say that. Meals are challenging. Like we want to support a kid through that challenge. Comment on your own food experience, like, ooh, that was big in my mouth, or ooh, I like the taste of this, or that's crunchy. So talk about your own experience, not what you want your child to do. Again, I talk about no bribing, no using food as a reward. I'm not a fan of tricks or sneaking in food. We really want our kids to see what food they're getting. So if I have a kiddo that is really doing, say, pouches, and they're getting their fruits and vegetables via pouch, I really encourage the family to get that food out of the pouch and into a bowl, and say that pouch has, broccoli, carrots, and spinach. Then I say, like, put a carrot slice in there, put a little floretta broccoli so that they can see, like, this is the whole food of this pouch that you really enjoy. And we can work from there. No short order cooking. This references the slide before of just really, if your child refuses, just know that um we're presenting them opportunities, and that's their opportunity. Although I will say my caveat is don't put a whole plate full of brand new foods. That does not feel safe for a kiddo. Um, and we don't want to set that. So I think I have a slide earlier. And like I said, get that pouch, get that food out of the pouch, out of the bag, onto a plate or in a bowl. Ooh, I'm quickly running out of time. I say feeding challenges didn't start overnight. So, really, our goal is just small, consistent changes. So, just working towards that, understanding the sensory properties of what foods your child really likes, and notice what they avoid, and kind of lean into what they are more drawn to, and try to get more variety within that texture or that taste. Food chaining is a really great way to make food just noticeably different. And it helps in increasing that repertoire of food. Kind of repeats. That's what I was saying. New foods. I like to have like 3 to 4 different foods max on a plate, um, and always having something familiar. So one new thing, small piece of that, and then familiar. When you might need more support. So I think it's really important. These strategies are really great places to start, but there are times where you need additional help. So if your kiddo has a history of poor weight gain or slow weight gain, and they're dropping percentiles, that's really a sign that you could use some more support. If they haven't weaned off of baby food, that pureed smooth consistency by 16 months, or maybe they're having even trouble going to pureed foods, that's a sign that you could use some more support. If there's a history of parental eating disorder, sometimes that can color or present challenges. So we absolutely recommend some additional feeding support with that. Um, when your child's presented with something new, if they just fall apart and melt, um, and that sabotages the whole meal, absolutely a sign that you could use some more support. If their feeding repertoire is less than 20 foods, or they've restricted a whole food group, like they won't eat any meats, any vegetables, that's a sign you could use some additional support. And if there's any history of choking or gagging, or not gagging, gagging's okay, but a choking incident that is now continuing to impact, you could really benefit from additional support. Um, these are my resources. I'll tell you, my favorite is food chaining. I love that resource. Ellen Satter is fantastic. And my newest one that's not on here is baby-led weaning. And you really see as you if you look on those Instagram sites, the 101 Foods by One, Baby Dietitian, they talk a lot about baby-led weaning. It's a great resource. Um, and then Encompass is always a resource. So you can reach out if you reach out to nourish at encompassnw.org. You can email questions and we are more than happy to support you, or just feel free to call and they'll get you to the right person. They'll get a message to a feeding support person and we can help you through that journey. So that was a fast and furious move through kind of feeding 101 for 6 months to toddlers. So thank you so much for your time today. And like I said, I really hope you have fun and enjoyment with feeding and family meal times with your kiddo.